All right, guys, we're going to go and jump into the big idea. Hey, and for the big idea this week, we've got mass formation psychosis. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it. Basically, the emperor's wearing no clothes, if you know the story.
Conspiracy theory or nah?
Uh, I I will tell you what, and this is for the audience, so we'll get them into it. When you talk about the emperor's new clothes, that
No, it's
is
no. The Emperor's New Groove,
that's new groove.
which is a
Oh, I
Disney
said new
film.
clothes. The
The
emperor's
Emperor
clothes
has no clothes.
is an old story. It's as a fable, and basically it's the guys that come in and they're trying to pull one over on the emperor. They're weaving. They're doing all this kind of stuff. He can't
Oh, they're
see
two.
them, and
They're two tailors, but they're two.
two
They're two.
cons.
I can't. They're con men. That's what it
They're
was, and they don't actually know how to sew. So,
No,
but they
right.
yeah,
But
that's right.
but for the finest material for the emperor, that's what he wants. And so he basically tells them it's so fine and whatever. And it's like, well, it takes the distinguished eye to see it. I mean, don't you have that, emperor? And well, yes, I do. Well, then these only you will be able to see this stuff. That's how exquisite it is. I mean, other people just will not even be able to see it or appreciate it. And so they basically, the day comes, he gives them their gold, they go off and he supposedly puts whatever it is on and he gets on his horse, rides out through, and everybody's oohing and awing. Of course, he's butt naked, and finally a little boy says, but he's not wearing any clothes.
Is that what little boys sound like in your head?
Well, in some places, and somewhere in this fabled land. And but and so my problem with that story, I never believed it. I really disliked that story because in my mind, there is no way with a visual, audio, smell, take every bit of your senses that you can discern anything with, and that you could fool everybody like that and get everybody to go along. And then 2020 came along.
Well, I was going to say Xi Jinping, who's in
Well,
charge of North
but that
Korea
didn't
right
happen in
now,
our
the
country. And
supreme
understand
leader,
that since that didn't happen in our
Kim
country,
Jong Un. There it is.
I have no concept of
Right.
it happening to us. And we have no concept of how those people fell in those countries to that propaganda. I was always led to believe because of the propaganda was the reason for it. And so that's how the people fell into it and so forth. And don't get me wrong, a lot of propaganda into this, but the mass psychosis part comes into where the fear of what others will think of you starts controlling the way that you think. Mass psychosis.
Yeah. Well, that's what you just said right there is the crux of it. It's fear. So I'm gonna talk about. I did a little bit of research heading into this, and I'm gonna
Fear is
label
the
off according to one article that I found online what the four necessary steps are. Or pillars in order to pull off mass formation psychosis. All right. So the first one is a lack of social bonds or a decoupling of societal connections. In a word, isolation. People are isolated from each other. You are no longer allowed to see people. Right. And then there needs to be a mass state of confusion. Right. People aren't able to discern what is true anymore. Once you do
you
that,
don't give them truth. So
well,
hence,
hold on what you're saying, because I'm just saying these are the four pillars. And then what I was going to ask you, I'm going to throw it up to you, is like, what does this look like? How does this happen? You see where I'm going? So number 4 is mass anxiety or fear. Right? Which fear and confusion may seem like the same thing, but they're really not. And it's important because the one feeds the other and they become cyclical, right? But they are not the same thing.
Right.
And it's important that it's the confusion on the one side about what is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the fear on the other, and the mass anxiety. And then you
Mm-hmm.
can also see how mass anxiety feeds into the isolation and the breaking down of social connections, because we are meant to be social creatures. And when we don't
Oh,
see
we
other
are.
people, right, it increases anxiety. So you see how this all becomes like a toilet bowl, swirling together. And then
Well,
finally,
cyclical, and it's a downward spiral. It's
like
not.
like a
Yeah.
toilet bowl. That's what I meant, right? And then finally, you need to have what brings it all together is you've got to have an antagonist of some kind, a bad
Mm-hmm.
guy, a target, something that you can point all of the fear and the anxiety at, and go,
Mm-hmm.
that thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, and then once you have all that, right? Boom, you can get a whole group of people to act in a way that is what we would consider, contrary to normal human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Vis-a-vis Germany, 1941. How do you get an entire
39
39 through 41?
through
But
41.
what I'm saying is, how do you get an entire group of Germany was a largely Christian country before that, under the Kaiser, right? How do you get a country that has such a long storied history of like Christianity, right, to then all of a sudden turn around and commit some of the worst human atrocities of the 20th century against another group of people?
6 million.
Mass formation psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
You take the people, in their case, Germany was isolated from the rest of the world. They were also economically impoverished coming out of World War
War
One.
One.
You have the mass confusion. Why is this happening to us? We don't understand. Also, economic bad times. So the anxiety is driven up. How do I provide for my family? And then, boom, here comes in your central figure to go, those people are the cause of all of your problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
so then I'm going to ask you, right? Give us another maybe more recent example, if you would,
Yeah.
of how else that could look.
Okay. So we started with fear and the fear of death. This little bug will get inside of you and you will die.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how are we going to overcome that? Well, uh, I will give you something and it will
Right.
save
The
you.
how, because nobody knew.
Nobody
Right. So
knew.
there was the confusion, the mass
There's
confusion.
well, and
you know.
well, let's say so the confusion comes in. Well, one thing we do know is it's a little bug and it gets inside of you, but it came from over here. No, it came from over there. Well, is it really the little bug, or is it grandma who has it? No, it's not grandma, it's the children, but we got to save the children. So the children, and all of a sudden all these different factors come in that are, well, here's something, you know what, we got people that are working on it. Here's the antidote. Take this antidote and it will not save you, but we have an antidote. They did say that, right?
I remember.
They knew that it will not prevent you from getting COVID. But you use the word, what was it? Because it's not really one, not inoculation, not injection. What was the word that they called it? Vaccination. Take this as a vaccination. It truly, by medical terms, is not a vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. Okay. When I heard how it was put together, I'm like, how are they calling this a vaccination that does not fit the definition of what a vaccination is? It's an inoculation, but it's not a vaccination. And it was not cultivated and used. No, they're using mRNA technology in order for it to work. And that's a whole nother thing. Okay, but you got fear. If you don't do this, you will die. And people were dying.
Right.
So there seems to be proof to what they were saying. However, when we go back through this, everybody will find that the very things that we were trying to do and telling people to keep people from dying, we were killing people.
Well, and then on top of that, we drove people into their houses. You can't go to work,
And so
go
then
home. There's the
children
breakdown
can't
of
be
social
with
bonds.
the elders. The elders can't be with the children. So we isolate Plus, we keep telling all of these pseudo things that will end up helping you. So now you got a problem coming here, problem coming here. Keep the confusion going. But there's only one thing that is central to this, and that is, watch this. Here comes the rescue. Wear this mask
and take this medicine.
and
The people who don't want to, they're the ones
They're bad.
They're
bad.
They're the big bad guy.
They're bad. In fact,
They're
if
the
you look
reason
really
that you're
close,
going
they
through
glow
this.
Orange.
Yeah, and then we started
Can I tell
seeing
a little story here.
We started seeing the videos of people acting in ways that you would never see.
Not in America.
Nice little old ladies act in the United States, beating people in stores because they didn't want to wear masks, yelling and screaming, running over people with cars. I saw some wild videos.
Yeah, here's a story that personally happened to me. So I had an essential job at the time. Check this out for America. When I would go out and work, I had to keep a piece of paper from me that was issued to me by the Secretary of State that I could go work.
Well,
and as I went around, I had to keep that paper with me to prove, in case I was pulled over by police or whatever, that I had an essential job.
No ticket.
In America.
You had to present your papers?
I had papers in America to work. Okay. So anyway, I'm out doing my job, and my job was with an insurance company so that we could keep insurances and things like that going. And I would do estimates on houses on their safety ratings. And I would have to turn that into an insurance company and so that the house can continue to be insured. And I come in, and this is well after schools had reopened and everything else. We were heading into the summertime after 2020. But here in Wisconsin, there were some schools that were still debating on whether or not they were going to open in the fall of 2021. But anyway, that's where we're at. And I go up to a house that I am going to have to measure the outside. I'm going to have to take pictures of the roof of different places, find out if there's structural problems on the house. And I walk in, and there are 3 kids in the front yard. Okay, 3 little girls. And as I go up to knock on the front door to let the homeowner know that I am outside of her door, she looks at me. She comes out, steps in front of her children between me and them, which, by the way, were probably 15, 20 feet apart, and steps in front of them and scoots them behind her and says, "Children, come on inside. He's not wearing a mask. Come on inside. And you girls, you need to go home." And I had never felt like that before in my whole life. There was
Start looking at your shirt for the yellow star.
And she stood in between me and them. And as they walked back to the house, she stayed in front of them until they got in the front door. And then she closed the front door and shut it.
It's wild.
That's how I was treated.
So
and
my final question for
you,
is conspiracy theory or not?
Of
the mass formation psychosis. Conspiracy theory or no?
Back to my original, what I was saying about that stupid story and the emperor's clothes. In my lifetime, as I was a kid, thought it was the dumbest of all the fables because that could never happen. And then I saw it happen.
Well, you guys are going to have to let us know what you think down below. Conspiracy theory or no? Be interested. Hey guys, as always, we exist to encourage you by cutting through the propaganda so you can enjoy thinking for yourself again. If you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you're subbed up. And hey, the algorithms, they do not like us and they are not going to help us. So the only way that we're going to grow is with your support. So if you could go and share the video with a friend, it sure would mean a lot to us. And I hope that you're sticking around for the who's who and what's new and the keeping the main thing the main thing.